So Karen, not everybody knows you. You're a therapist in Granville. And how long have you been practicing about?
Let's see, I started practicing in 2002 and I opened my practice in 2008, I think.
Okay, so quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a few, not as many years as I have under your belt, but you've got, yeah. I when I checked in with you today to see if you'd be willing to do this, it was because of your Facebook post, and that I was really taken with the kind of wisdom and advice you were giving people about how to manage this. And I wondered if you could walk through a little bit of that with us, just about what you're seeing and what you believe would be helpful for us to get through this time.
Sure, sure. I think the thing that has kind of been sticking out to me is the two levels of coping that we're going through. So there's part of us that goes into a problem solving mode. And so that happened pretty quickly and it continues to evolve. So learning to school kids at home, work from home, um, any of the logistics, problem solving if your finances have been impacted, if you lost a job or took a pay cut, and you kind of start thinking, what are my options? How can I work through this?
Mhm.
I and then working from home, how do you create a space? And so we go into this process of problem solving. And that is helpful and needed. What it doesn't do necessarily is help us feel less anxious. So the nature of this pandemic is that there's no clear sense of an end time. There's no clear sense of what it's going to look like. We have some best guests based on different charts and those sorts of things, but we don't have a sense personally of how long this is going to take. So the trick then is to kind of look at rather than problem focused, which is the first part, that's the doing part, is to then look at coping skills that are emotion based. So acknowledging what we're feeling and letting those emotions come in and acknowledging them and then letting them pass through. And in the process, being really kind to ourselves and kind of recognizing what is it that we need right now. We're going to be more exhausted. Our brains are working in overtime trying to figure all of this stuff out. And we
Mhm.
say our lizard brain is exhausted because it's trying to figure out, is this safe? Is our environment safe? And so that's constantly when we're consuming media. Again, we need a certain amounts to stay safe and to understand what's going on. But when we constantly engage that lizard part of our brain, we're constantly in that fight or flight mode. And so being able to let our lizard brain kind of relax, let our stress hormones come down. And one of the best ways to do that is to get out and move. Movement helps reset our nervous system. It's a reset. So getting out, fresh air can help with that. It's tricky with the weather. There's days that it's not always conducive to that. But when we have that opportunity, getting out and moving your body a little bit. And it doesn't have to be any sort of wild exercise program, but just clearing your system,
Mhm.
letting that kind of work itself out.
And that's what you're going to be doing with the kids this afternoon, right?
It is. Yes, we're going
Before
to
the rain
steal
comes again.
a little sunshine before the rain comes back. So, yes.
I'm actually glad that I have to walk my dogs now because I don't have a yard I can just let them into. So, you know, 3 times a day, I actually have to go outside and move around. And that's been a really good reset for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say paying attention to your five senses, which is a really good thing. So your sense of touch, smell, sight, taste, and hearing, those ground us. And that, I always say, it reminds us of a time when things weren't so surreal. Because right
Oh,
now everything feels really surreal. And so
yeah.
when we go back to what do I know? What is familiar to me? It helps calm the nervous system and helps us kind of come down from what we were experiencing.
That makes sense too. I mean, I think because there's so much that's new and unknown and out of our control that at least it's like being embodied that I know this, I
Yeah.
know what I can see. I know what I can touch. That part of it is really, it concretizes things and it helps us trust ourselves a little bit, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think just taking things one one step at a time. You
Mhm.
know, I had my kids without any sort of painkillers or anything like that. And I remember thinking the hardest part wasn't so much the labor, it was not knowing the end point.
Oh,
So, was it going to be one push, or was it going to be 20 pushes for 20 minutes or 2 hours or 12 hours? I didn't know what to brace myself for mentally. And that's the challenge I think that we're in now, is that we don't know the end point. So, the only thing that we're left to do is to take it one step at a time,
one breath at a time.
one breath at a time, one moment, and just being in this moment with whatever emotions come up and whatever emotions go through us.
Mhm.
That we don't know when the end game is yet.
Yeah. One of the things I've found for myself is practicing not being afraid of my feelings,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
I feel anxious or I feel afraid or I feel angry or irritable or whatever those things are, not to be down on myself on top of all that
right.
or
Yeah,
worried about the worry, but simply to kind of acknowledge them and, give them their due and
yeah,
kind of go to comfort. It's almost like if I were, what would my mom want to give me in this? What would my grandma say? It's like, where's the comfort that I can offer to myself
yeah.
because of that anxiety rather than, adding sort of self-criticism onto the anxiety itself.
Right. Our emotions are what make life rich, right? They're really great parts of things. And so the problem we usually have with our emotions is when they get too intense. So
Yeah.
when we try and deny them or pretend that we're not feeling them, it doesn't do us any favors.
Right.
Instead, being able to acknowledge, boy, I am feeling really anxious today. And
Mhm.
then we go into, what kind of coping skills can I use to regulate those emotions? What can I do to manage the intensity of that?
Mhm.
Because when it gets up here, this is too much, it's uncomfortable. And so
Right.
then I go back to, yes, that, what would your mom do, or what can you do for yourself? The self-soothing. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. I'm going to wrap myself in a nice warm blanket. Any of those self-soothing things, take a bath, being really good. This is a great opportunity to practice being kind in your self-talk.
Yeah.
So not judging your process. This is hard for everyone. This is unprecedented, and so being really kind in terms of how you talk to yourself.
Someone said once, what would your best friend tell you?
Yeah.
And I think that's right. Or what would you tell your best friend? I mean, if
Right.
your best friend was coming to you, what would you say? You wouldn't say, "Why are you feeling that way?" That would be mean. So, yeah,
Yes.
do something kinder to ourselves as well. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, I know that there is concern about families where there's a lot of intensity and
Mhm.
family violence,
Yeah.
domestic issues. If a member of the family is finding themselves super intense, that it can come out onto the other family members, or people can escalate each other in a family. Um,
Yes.
what I've heard is still calling 211 is a good resource.
Yes.
That they can help get people in touch with the right resources to get what they need and not to be afraid to do that. Is that what you
Yes.
would
Yes.
suggest?
I was just reading an article about how domestic violence has increased.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of you have heard that sense of, under stress, we can be our best selves or we can be our worst selves.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it can bring out the worst self. And certainly when that's a safety issue, that needs to be a priority. And so 211 in Licking County is a great resource. Um, so yeah, making sure to keep yourself safe, because that is a process you can't negotiate in
Right.
the midst of all of
Exactly.
this.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying so hard to keep ourselves safe by keeping, physical distancing and all that, but we need to keep ourselves safe emotionally and in our living situations as well.
Yes.
Well, I
Yes.
hope you have a lot of fun this afternoon out in the sunshine. I may do that too. I like to listen to the governor's press conference, and so I may take the dogs out for a little stroll while we do that. So,
Yes. That's great.
yeah. Well, enjoy. Thanks for the good wisdom and advice. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Karen.
Okay, take
Take
care.
care,
Stay
everyone.
safe. Bye.
Bye.